Well, howdy. Hello. Thanks for being here. I'm today talking to Joe White, who is a screenwriter, journalist, and works for Final Draft and No Film School. She's got a great account on TikTok where she posts about her travels in the industry, the writing, interviewing people, all that. I'll tag her in the comments of, if you're probably watching this on TikTok or YouTube, or Spotify. I'm going to tag her in the comments everywhere. So definitely go check her work out. It's pretty cool. I really liked her videos. This episode was really fun. I think I say that a lot, but all the episodes are just really fun. She ended up being so fascinating to talk to about her screenwriting and interviewing and her entertainment career that we didn't get to talk about the movies as much as we'd like. So yeah, hopefully she'll come back and do another episode where we'll talk about the movies more. I think we talked about maybe wanting to do some disaster ones, which I love disaster movies, so that could be cool. Which, speaking of that, I think we are... always gotta be aggressive here. I think we're 8 episodes in. So yeah, what are your thoughts? If you've listened to an episode, maybe 2 episodes, maybe all 8 episodes. Well, I don't know how you'd listen to this one because it's not out. Please don't hack my computer. But yeah, hit me up in the comments, DM me or whatever if you have any feedback about the format. I'd love to know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, whatever. I'm pretty easy to reach. You can hit me up anywhere. This is probably always going to be a podcast where I kind of YOLO it. I'm not really good at taking feedback, so that's not totally true. I'm okay at taking feedback, I think, but I'm probably just going to YOLO it. I guess I'm not good at improving myself is probably the best way to put that. But all that stuff is kind of good to throw into like the mental hopper in terms of like what people want to hear. So, yeah, excited for this one. We talk about, let's see, navigating film festivals, the role of a script reader, experience with interviews and junkets, genre preferences and their impact, short films, influence of directors, legacy of filmmakers, and obviously RoboCop. Oh, I didn't even say that. We are watching today. I get to show off my... we watched... Joe picked RoboCop, which classic. Love RoboCop. This is, I think, my second time watching it, and I really, really loved it this time around. And I picked Predator 2, which was, I found out after, apparently heavily inspired by RoboCop. I always thought it was sort of like it was kind of in like my personal canon of like underrated movies, because I think there's a lot of great social commentary, as in Predator 1, if you've been watching my channel lately. Yeah, Predator 2, really good, and both these movies were great, and I feel like I've been doing some long intros lately, so for this one, I'll just say, I'm going to try and cut it short. I think I'm done, and I'll just say, enjoy the show, and thanks for listening. And for the audio-only people, that was me tipping my cowboy hat.
Throw some colors on the screen and paint me black and white. I want to see a thief in a gunfight or a heroine wounded in love. You can keep her lighted by an old flame left to frame, so I can read the feeling on her face, half in shadow, and know I felt that too. In danger and in love, you've got the dreams I was dreaming of, and I've got 2 hours to pretend. So I watch a movie with a friend. Time's running sideways, and reality's gotta meet me halfway. So I'll meet it here again. Here's the Trading Movies Podcast with friends.
Hello, today I'm talking to Joe White, who is a screenwriter, journalist, recovering Hollywood script reader, I should say, and writer for Final Draft, No Film School, and a bunch of other publications. She has interviewed folks from all over the movie industry, including Kristin Chenoweth, love her, director Jared Hess of Napoleon Dynamite, love him, one of my favorite movies, James Mangold, who did he did a Logan and Walk the Line, I think I want to say. Sound editor Johnnie Burn was a random one from Zone of Interest, which I love that movie. Lucy Dacus, is it Dacus? Dacus? I never know how to pronounce her name.
I think it's Dacus.
Lucy Dacus, okay. Yeah, I love her music. Just listen to and so many others. You can find her online at joelight.online. That's JOLIGHT.online. On TikTok at TikTok at Joe Lightly, JOLIGHTLY. On Letterboxd at Jojo Binks, JOJOBINKS1. And Blue Sky at joe-light.bsky.social. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited. I've been a fan of your TikToks for so long. We were just talking about how many videos I love.
Thank you. That's yeah, I'm excited. I think you're the first, I want to say the first like sort of person in kind of like the real film industry that I'm talking to. So it's exciting for me. I'm I'm nervous.
Oh, no, don't be. No, no, no. Yeah, like I said, talking to people is one of my favorite things. So, yeah, don't be nervous. It's great. It's gonna kind of be new for me to be on the other side of it.
Yeah, yeah. I saw Joe. I am like obsessive. Shout out to regular listeners of the podcast. Actually, you wouldn't have known that, what regular listeners of the podcast, because that podcast episode is not. Well, it might be out by the time you're listening to this. I don't know how my time. I talked about it in a previous episode I recorded, but haven't released yet. Which we'll get into, because also this is. I noticed that. So the movies we watched today. Joe picked RoboCop, classic, love it. I actually wore. Let's see if I can get this in frame.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a Schwarzenegger. It's for the audio only people. It's a Total Recall poster shirt, but by the guy shirt maker Meth Syndicate. But it says Total Wine and More, like the liquor store. So I had to wear that for the Verhoeven heads out there. But yeah, I noticed that. So I'm obsessive, and I noticed that I try and check out when I get new followers. And I noticed Joe had, I think, recently got onto TikTok. I want to say.
Yeah, I literally just got on.
Pretty recent? Yeah.
Yeah.
And she had a great video about, I want to say she was doing like a day in the life at South by Southwest this year. That was really cool. How was that?
Thanks. Oh, it was great. Yeah, and that was kind of my first dive into like content creation. I've been like mostly behind the camera and a lot of the things that I do. And I was just like, well, why not? Like I'm here, so I'll just make a video. But yeah, South by was great. It is a very if you've ever been to a film festival, it's like very spread out. It's kind of, you have to really use your time well if you go to South by, because there's so much going on, and you never get to everything that you want. And you just have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with like being outside in Austin where it's potentially very hot, and waiting in a lot of lines. And it's always such a big contrast to Sundance, because Sundance happens in January, end of January, and then you roll into South by, and they're such different festivals.
Did you do you have like a special press pass, like as part of like, you get like did you go as like part of No Film School or Final Draft or something, or?
I went both to Sundance and South by under the No Film School banner, but I wrote pieces for both of them when I was there. And yeah, I've been doing South by since before the pandemic. Obviously, we didn't have it the year of the pandemic, but every other year since about 2019, I think I've been at South by. And then I volunteered at Sundance for a long time before I became press. So it's been a nice little journey.
That's awesome. I noticed that when I was trying to look at some of your videos, Joe had another great video about sort of like how to get into the like film journalism, and you said you called it like volunteering at film festivals. So is that sort of like how you got started on a lot of this?
Oh, how I got started in a lot of it was, I mean, I do think that's a really good tip, just to sort of network and meet a lot of people. A lot of it comes down to networking. So I worked for a producer, one of my first jobs in Hollywood. I worked for on a desk, and it was a very stressful job. I don't know that I was that good at it, but I did meet a lot of people, and I transitioned from there into reading scripts. So I wanted to be off of a desk and just be a person in development still. So yeah, at the time that I was on a desk, my boss was really pushing me to go on a lot of drinks. They call it like go to drinks. And so I met a friend of mine, Jason, who also writes for No Film School. I've known him for forever now. And he kind of got me into that whole sphere of writing for No Film School, which I've been doing since probably about 2018 now. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's all about knowing people. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but in this industry, it's so much networking and just like putting yourself out there and meeting who you can and finding out who you mesh with.
So when like go to drinks, that's like, is that like just like cocktails at like a little parties, like?
It can be, usually it's just bosses will push their assistants a lot of times to, because in the industry like this, you come up sort of with a class and you're all rising together. So they want you to know as many people as you can and just have those connections. So yeah, it can be cocktails, but oftentimes it's just really late after work, however many hours you have after work, and just meeting people at various places. It can be coffee and dinner, obviously, but usually it's drinks.
And how did you get into like being a producer, like into that job? Like, I guess like the initial, like, did you go to school for film or?
I didn't. No, I went to school for journalism, which is why
cool.
I think another reason why this has sort of been an easy path for me to go down is I had that journalistic training, and I think that made me a little bit more of an easy hire because I'd been on sets, but I also had
Mm.
that writing background in the training. So yeah, it's just been always what I was interested in, and I'm stunned that I it was able to get into the field because at the time I was in school, it was like journalism is dying, we don't know what's
Yeah,
happening. So I'm very grateful that I'm able to do this work. But yeah, so that's kind of
that's
how
really
that
cool.
started.
What is being like a what is like I was um dying to know about like being a script reader. I've never talked to a script reader ever. I know like the term, and like I
Mhm.
think like so I was a writing major as well. I took a journalism class. I think podcast number 3 or so. I think I or 4. I talked to my journalism professor, who's also my writing professor. I went to a very small liberal arts school, and so I was always kind of curious, like because as part of my thesis, I did like a little bit of a screenplay. I've done a short film, and is every like budding screenwriters, right? Like I guess like what is the opposite? Like I've always wondered like who are these people? Like I've never submitted a script, but like who are these people that are sort of like reading the script? So if you're working for like a production company, is it like as a scripter, are you getting like 10 scripts a day, 1,000 scripts a day? Like how does that? What's the 9 to 5 of that?
Uh, it could vary. Sometimes it would be so I did it both for ICM, which is now I think under a different agency umbrella. I think they got bought.
That's a
Um,
talent agency, ICM.
yeah,
Okay.
they did lit management and talent management, and I think they may have had sports at the time. I can't remember. And then I also did it at Relativity Media, which is a production company.
Mm.
Um,
That name I recognize. I think feel like they've been in a lot of stuff, but
I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, they filed for bankruptcy, so
ah, maybe because I
that's
watch a lot
why.
of old movies. That's
Yeah,
probably
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, they produced a lot of really well-known stuff, particularly in like the 2010s.
Mm. Yeah,
But
Frost Nixon and Fast and Furious and
mhm,
Funny People, Public Enemies. Yeah, I'm just looking at a update of Repo Men, the Ridley Scott Robin Hood, Grown Ups,
mhm.
Social Network, The Fighter. Yeah, that's like I was talked about in a previous episode. That's when I like was probably 17, 18, 19. I think I was like 17, 2007. So like, that's probably the era where I have like pretty broad like I remember I'm gonna watch a ton of movies at that time. So definitely saw the
Yeah,
relativity. That's cool.
yeah. Um, I mean, a lot of those people still operate in various roles, but I don't know that the company really exists as it did back then. But
Mm,
yeah, so when I was at the talent agency, a lot of times I was reading like for talent, so I would get a script and it would be like, we want Michael Keaton for this. Will you read it with him in mind? So I was basically reading it for the actor or the director or whoever they wanted. So they didn't have to. So I would read it and
mm,
I would synopsize it. So I would say like, here's what the script is about. Um, I would talk about strengths, weaknesses, whether it would work for this person. And a lot of times it would be a pass because the standards for what people want to spend their time and money on are so high that the script had to be like really amazing for me to recommend it. And it was not necessarily safer, but more expected that you would pass on a script. It would have to be like really good if you were telling like Michael Keaton, yes, be in this movie.
mm,
When I was at the production company, they were more concerned about money, so it was more an issue of like, will this make will this make anything?
mm,
Um, and yeah, so it was just schedule wise, it could vary. Like I said, it would be sometimes it would be we need this tomorrow. Can you rush it? And sometimes it would be a novel or it would be a script. But usually I would just sort of check in and say like, can I have some for the weekend? Or so yeah, it would be maybe it wouldn't be too crazy. I think I would maybe read 5 scripts a week. If I had a novel or a book, then I would have more time. But
mm.
yeah, it wasn't too wild. And
That's
it was
cool.
out of office, so that was another reason that I really liked that is I was just able to work from home.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said I noticed in one of the bios, I think it might have been on No Film School, you said recovering script reader. So is that a job that you just wouldn't never want to do again or like at a certain point?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't not want to do it again. It is very hard. But it's great if you want to be a writer, especially like a lot of people I would run into. I also walked dogs, so if I ever had a client who was a writer now, they would say, "Yeah, I worked as a script reader. It's great. It's a grad school of screenwriting, essentially,
Hmm.
is what a lot of people would call it." Um, it is a lot. It's a lot of pressure sometimes because, like, you would you would feel like, what if I miss something that's really good, or what if
Mhm.
someone else really wants them to do this? Um, the only like comparable experience I have is at the Academy Museum in LA. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go out there and go to that
No.
museum, but um, they at the time had, I want to say it was some exhibit of a filmmaker, and they had some of the. It was like it's a very well known film, and I should be able to remember it off the top of my head, but I can't. Let me look really quick. But there was a sort of a retrospective of this film, and they had one of they had a little case with some of the script coverage notes in it,
Mhm.
and it was a reader who had passed, and it was like, this is terrible, this will never go anywhere. I may have been Do the Right Thing.
Hmm.
I think it was that movie. um but yeah, and now it's like something that's iconic, and
Yeah.
I had a mini panic attack there. I was like, if anyone ever pulls out some of my coverage for a movie that I passed on, it's like my nightmare. They had like taken out the name and everything, but it would just
Mm.
be my personal nightmare if that ever happened.
Yeah, so like you add, are there like ones out there that like you're hoping just sort of stay deep in the Raiders of the Lost Ark vault that like you passed on that like became huge hits? I'm not asking you to name them. I'm just like, is that
I
experience like?
I don't think there's any that I passed on that have ended up getting made. I think there have been a couple that were like sort of splashily announced
Mhm.
and not happened yet. So, I mean, that's the closest I've gotten.
Gotcha. Well, that's
Yeah,
good. You're not gonna
yeah,
end up, it's not like the "you belong in a museum" quote
yeah,
from Raiders.
yeah.
Um, that's cool. So you did that, and then you got into no film school, final draft, and you've just been sort of writing, I guess. Like, um, yeah, how is it like? So recently, you did an interview. Joe did an interview with Rami Youssef. As part, I was trying to watch the video on it, and also I noticed, like, yeah, as I mentioned, like Jared Hess. Um, how is that experience? Like, I guess so. This is like just because I'm very curious, like sort of the brass tacks of like Jared Hess. I think on your video you said it's like he's doing it as part of a junket, and so you have 10 minutes to interview him, and it's just like whatever you can get in sort of 10 minutes. And is he doing like 30 interviews that day? Is it like a 9 to 5 thing where he's just sort of back to back to back?
That wasn't the case for Jared, but it was for Rami.
Oh, for Rami, I'm sorry.
For Rami, excuse me. They had scheduled interviews for him and a couple, the showrunner and another writer. So you just knew that they were rolling in reporters every
Mm,
few minutes. Um, yeah, so that's what a junket is. Is if you've seen like Notting Hill, there's like a junket sequence in that
I
where.
haven't. Is that
Oh,
good?
okay. Oh my
I should.
gosh. Notting
Yeah,
Hill. Yeah, it's so
yeah.
good. Yeah, like Hugh Grant sort of crashes a junket and he pretends to be a reporter from Horse and Hound, but he doesn't know anything about the film. And
Oh,
obviously,
this looks
Horse and
great.
Hound, yeah, Horse and Hound would not be a great film related interview. But yeah, so it's like in a Zoom setting, which this was, you get put in like a waiting room. You see other reporters kind of coming in and out. Some of them will come back later for other interviews. Um, and then you go in and you say, "Hi, I'm such and such from here," and then you get started. Um, that one was pretty easy because he's like really easy to talk to. But
Mm.
um, James Mangold was a little bit more difficult. I think I was given like 5 or 6 minutes with him, and he he just he doesn't really need questions. He'll just talk. So I think I asked one thing and then he just talked for the entirety of the time. So
That's cool.
it is very easy, but a little stress inducing sometimes.
Do you like? I'd be curious, like as far as those junkets go. I've noticed, like, so I'm a big sports fan, and like at the end of like when those sports journalists, right, are like asking athletes or something, like they do pretty like kind of like simple, like, oh, tell me about the game, or like, could you talk about what happened in the second period? And it seems like my thought has always been like, I'd love if they just went completely crazy with the question, or like if they went like completely off the wall, or like something hyper specific. But then I've noticed when that happens, like the athletes kind of like they kind of are like taken aback because you're sort of like out of their mode. I guess when you're thinking about like what question to ask, like James Mangold, knowing that you have like one or two, is there like, are you thinking like I should ask something like relatively within the ballpark of what he expect to ask? Or are you ever thinking like, oh, I should really like, tell me about the scene and walk the line in like 2005 with whatever? Like, how do you approach, I guess, formulating and choosing the question?
Yeah, it really depends on the person. Um, for him, like I said, I feel like he's not someone that's going to be patient about, even though he's very nice, I don't think he's going to be patient about like a weird or wacky question.
Mm,
So a lot of times what I do if I'm talking to someone, I just try to figure out how they've talked about their work prior to this, like what other questions have been asked commonly. Um, Partially because I do want to avoid asking questions that they've likely heard 50 times in
mm,
the same day. Um, but also trying to find like a new spin on it. And a lot of my writing and my work is education focused. So I'm looking for like what can you tell us about how you do this or how you operate, or what tips do you have for someone in XYZ position. So that kind of helps a lot because I don't have to come up with like just questions out of thin air. It's a lot of questions about like, well, what do you do when this happens in your writing process, or um, how do you identify in your structure, where you want to do the midpoint or whatever.
mm,
Um, so that is very helpful in that I don't really have to think of like necessarily like weird or wacky questions.
mm.
I just watched a montage of Cillian Murphy being interviewed, and it's like I think I would be terrified to interview him because he just doesn't. He's another one where he's like, I don't have patience. I don't know what a meme is. Like, he's not gonna probably be. I think he's nice also, but I just think that he would be a difficult interview.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that tracks. Um, that does make, yeah. I've seen some of his one, especially like I think probably his demeanor, like with the huge eyes he has, just like, I just imagine that would be intimidating. He's gorgeous and everything. That would probably just be pretty intimidating for me, or anybody, I should say. Um, yeah, that's fascinating. I guess like is it when you were interviewing like Jared Hess, is that like that's one where you have more of like a, was that like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? Like is that like more relaxed?
Yes, it's much more relaxed, and that I think the only obstacle we had with that was he was traveling a little bit, so we had to find kind of a unique time. And yeah, I think that one ended up being about 15 or 20 minutes. So I love
Mm,
those situations where they're a little bit more loose and fluid, and you're not so stressed out about taking up another writer's time or a journalist's time. Um, yeah, yeah, I much prefer those situations,
yeah.
even though it's fun to do a junket too.
Is there a particular piece like of advice that you can think of that you like, I guess like screenwriting focus, given that you're asking like a lot of questions about like educational content? Is there like one that's like really stuck out to you from someone that's like, this is, or like an interesting one, or one that surprised you? Like anyone say like, you should always eat 3 bananas or something before like sitting down to write your script?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like to ask a lot about like writer's block and how to avoid it or get over it. And a lot of times the answer is just like stop working on whatever you're blocked on and just work on something else, or just like
Mm,
stop writing. Um, so I really enjoy that kind of advice where it's just like just do this. Trying to think of other. I just talked to Adam DeYoung about friendship, which is I'm very excited about. And he recommended this book, which I just started. It's called Into the Woods
mm,
by John York, and it's about 5 act structure. So instead of 3 act, which is your traditional screenplay structure. So I'm enjoying that, and so I appreciated that advice from him. Um, yeah, and in terms of like structure, that is something that I like to ask about too in screenplays because typically you expect, like I said, that 3 act structure and things have to happen, not have to, but in executive eyes and like a lot of readers' eyes, things have to happen like by page 10, you have to do this, by page 30, you have to do this. And I like writers that sort of operate outside of that framework, and they
Mm.
like sometimes the inciting incident, which can happen on page 10, will happen on like page 1. So I mean, some writers are like, I hate structure, or uh, some of them like swear by it. I'm trying to. There was a movie that Ed Helms and Patty Harrison did, and the writer of that film uh, was like, I put the inciting incident on page 1. Like it starts
Mm.
with the movie's called Together Together, and it's by Nicole Beckwith. And that's another piece of advice I think that stuck with me, is that you're not necessarily bound to that
Mm.
beat outline that a lot of writers swear by.
Would you recommend like that? I guess like if you're trying to, if for all my screenwriting listeners out there, me included, if I ever want to submit something, would you like recommend if you're submitting something to kind of keep generally to like that sort of by page 10, by page 30 type thing, or what would your advice be?
That's a really hard question to answer because I mean, I always appreciate unique work.
Mm-hmm.
I am somebody who I think, and Adam DeYoung agreed. I think that structure is useful. It's there for a reason. So I mean, unless you're like a super experienced writer that you know those conventions already, you should probably at least loosely stick to them. Meaning, like the audience needs to have an idea of where your story's going and what they can expect, and that's sort of what structure lens is. We know that by this point there's going to be a choice and the adventure is going to start. And one thing that I like that this book is exploring is the idea of like um, the character in that inciting incident having his world changed, and his desire to get back to, or to get to the thing that he wants, and everything that's in his way is preventing him from getting to that point. And I think that this could be really helpful for people like me that struggle with the second act.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what I've sort of learned from it already. I just started it last week, but it's really good. So I would recommend it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I will. You'll have to check that out. I haven't really read too many screenwriting books. I think I've generally tried to like not know, but like like look up the structure. Like probably honestly, no film school is like
Hmm.
probably it's probably a lot of stuff on there and like other places. I think the only one I've read was which I really liked. I probably read a couple, but it's the guys who wrote who were Reno 911 and
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
how
I
to
think
write.
I have
Do you
that
have that
book,
one?
I think. Yeah, I don't know where it is, but it's
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah, it's I think Robert Ben Garant and Thomas Lennon, who were Dangle and Junior on Reno 911. They wrote Herbie Fully Loaded. They wrote the not the National Treasure, but the Night at the Museum. I always get those movies in my head. They
Mhm.
wrote Night at the Museum. So I think it's called like writing movies for fun and profit,
Yeah,
like how to
I
make a
think
billion
that's
dollars at the box office or something.
yeah, it's an
Their
interesting
advice is basically like make everything like Die Hard. It's like if your
one.
script isn't Die Hard, it's like it's probably not good. They're like movies like Italian neorealism or something. It's like those are great movies, but that's not what Hollywood makes. So if you're gonna try and like want to get into Hollywood, write Die Hard with a gun, Die Hard on a plane, Die Hard with a ship, and
Mhm.
they outline the structure. And to the extent that when I've sort of been writing stuff, I kind of keep like that. I think that structure in like a Google Doc, like roughly trying, but I don't know. It's also hard because I don't know. I think like personally, I'm not sure how much I want to write like I guess like a modern Hollywood movie, like when I'm writing, because I think a lot of the movies that I tend to watch, and I'd be curious about your thoughts on this. Like is like the modern sort of like I guess like that kind of like Hollywood sort of standard. Are those the types of movies that you find yourself sort of watching normally? Because I'll get my thumbs up on my video. The like I noticed one video you had, which I have another question about, but you were saying you were cleaning and you were watching Heat. Heat was
Mhm.
for a long time was like one of my favorite movies.
So
Not
good.
necessarily a Hollywood movie, right?
Mhm.
It's like because it's like 3 hours. Like it's it's kind of hard to compare. Like the thing that always reminds me the most of is like the Iliad, because it's like people like sort of two different sides of things about like heroism and what makes a man and all this stuff, at least to me. So I'd be curious, like, are those the types of movies that you find yourself drawn to that are like sort of more their structure, or like are you so embedded in the structure and like sort of thinking about it, they're like, I kind of want to watch like, I don't know, Flowers of Shanghai or like Agnes Varda something.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'm a genre person, so I like love horror. I got my Michael Myers on today.
Nice.
Um,
Love it.
uh, and those tend to be like typically pretty traditional in structure, like in tropes. Like you know
Mm,
what you're gonna get with a lot of horror movies. Um, I mean, I'd love a I love all movies. It's really hard for me to say like I hate a movie or I hate a type of film, but
same.
yeah, I mean, I think I tend to it's kind of hard. It's kind of like a two-sided thing where a lot of what John York is exploring in this book is how like three act structure in particular is is a way for particularly executives who don't really know how to be creative is it's a way for them to
Yeah.
understand writing, if that makes sense. And I mean, unfortunately, that is, I mean, a lot of execs are business people, and there's nothing wrong with that, but they're not the ones who are like dreaming up a lot of the ideas a lot of the times.
Yeah.
So that structure has been a little bit imposed on us. I do think it's useful, but I think that there are definitely ways to get away from it too. Like, I mean, I think you find elements of it in almost anything that you watch, but like a purely artistic film is probably not what I'm always going to gravitate to. I'll watch them and I'll
Mhm.
enjoy them, but if it's like super avant-garde, I'm probably just going to enjoy it for its artistic value, probably
Mm,
not for guidance in terms of what I want to write personally, if that makes
gotcha.
sense. What about you?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to say. That's a putting it back on me. That's a great question. So the short film I did was about honestly just particular anxieties I had about AI and uh, AI and relationships and like sort of the idea of people like sort of overly trying to find their perfect partner and how that's going to make us all lonelier. So it's weird. Honestly, it's a great question. Like with that, because like when I was writing that, I just kind of just was like, I kind of want it to be roughly like I love Hitchcock, so I was kind of thinking like Rear Window, Vertigo, and then I love Donald Campbell. The and he did the Demon Seed is one of his like kind of I think his 1977 horror about like this robot like trapping a woman in her house and like forcing her to have the robot baby, and it's like it's this really, I don't know if you've ever seen The Demon. It's this really bizarre movie. He is like one of the weirdest directors. He only did like 4 movies. um but yeah, it's like I honestly with the short film it was kind of hard because I really haven't seen many short films, and I don't know if I've ever seen like a 40-minute short film, which is what I ended up making. um and then I'm currently now I'm redoing that because I want to or re-editing it for TikTok, because I tried to do like the film festival route, and like I got into 2 in Slovakia for whatever reason, and it was like cool, but I think I applied to like 14, but then the rest of them didn't, and like I was like, I don't really know that world. I don't know anyone in that world. I don't know what the world's looking for. I don't even know if like a 40-minute short film is like, because I talked to like one of the people at one of the film festivals, and they're like, yeah, we don't really do like, we say like 40 minutes, but like it has to be really really good for it to be 40 minutes, because like they want to like get more of things. Like they're taking like, they have like a 2-hour short film block, it's like 40 minutes takes up like a third of that, so they kind of want like more 10-15 minutes. I was like, oh, okay, that would have been, you should put that somewhere on your site or whatever. So now I'm cutting it for TikTok because I have the audience or whatever. But in terms of like writing, there's like a couple features I guess I'm playing with. And like probably 2-ish that I'm working on at the moment fairly actively. And Yeah, I think your thing about being genre is right, but I think it's like the genres I'm looking at generally because I watch so many old movies are like older and like I don't think I'm kind of turning off like being able to get any type of budget in at all. Like the for my short film, I just ended up spending a ton of my savings on a camera and lights and mics and all this stuff. And I figure, well, I'll just beg, borrow, and steal, and just kind of like that's my only thing is like how can I do it myself basically, and so that I don't have to like think about how's this going to be produced or how's this whatever. So like for the short film we did, it's like, well, I got a house off of Airbnb. I talked to I was like, can we shoot a thing here? And we shot it like within I think it was like 6 days of shooting, and just tried to be like just efficient or whatever, just using like friends and local actors and whatever. It'd probably be easier if I knew more about structure though, I guess.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah. Yeah, short films are like their own unique challenge.
Yeah.
They're very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about them. That's kind of like it's also the weird thing is like I was thinking about doing another short, but I don't know if I want to do another because I don't know the medium. It's like
Mm.
I've probably seen I think I've seen thousands of movies, right? But I've only seen probably less than 100 short films, I would
Mm.
think. And
Yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, that's another reason that festivals are so important is I feel like those are the only outlets that are, I mean, unless you like self-distribute where you can see them. And a lot of times you'll see them and then you'll never see them again. Like
Mm.
one of my favorite short times of all time is called, I think it's called Great Choice. And there was a feature screenplay of that I loved, and it will never get made. But it was like a Red Lobster commercial that
Mm.
someone got stuck in, and it was playing over and over. It was so good.
That's so cool.
Um, but yeah, they have to be like a lot of times for festivals, they have to be like so punchy and so unique, and you have to like understand them right away.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, they're really hard to write, and they're really hard to make, and they're really hard to get seen, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think my short film there wasn't dialogue for the first. I mean, there's like this person listening to a podcast, but
Mm.
that was also kind of the experience that it was almost like deliberately. It's like I know this is not going to be a thing, but it's like I wanted to portray it at least truthfully in my head of just like me being a lonely dude driving around listening to podcasts. Hopefully, shout out to all hopefully lonely listeners. Hopefully, this is making you slightly happier, your day, whatever. But like the first like 10, like probably 5 minutes of it is like this sort of podcast conversation that this person's listening to because it's like that was kind of my experience just driving around town is like I'm going to the bookstore, I have like my headphones in, I'm like getting something to eat, I'm just doing it, and it's just kind of like this sort of ennui of like modern life where you're sort of like engage, you're in the world, especially in suburbia, but you don't see anyone, you're not talking to anyone. Like I think compared to like at least from what I nostalgically remember in like the 90s or what I've seen earlier, it's like seems more connected, but this is like headphones in and you're just kind of doing your thing and you're listening to it. And I hadn't seen like that portrayed on film as much. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to do it, which is again probably not a great thing if I want it to be selected for a festival, right? I noticed that on TikTok a lot actually. It's like I find like when I'm doing my videos, like I'm trying to do like the first couple, like the drop off on them is like 2 seconds, like half your audience falls off. So it's like you gotta like I'm trying to almost pick more topics now that it's like in 2 seconds, like they get something to your point about like the structure of it. And yeah,
Yeah, we're in that era, I think, too, where our attention spans are very, very short,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Instead of page 10, it's like, what's interesting. I kind of wonder, I've been thinking about like, I almost wonder if it's like just a different, like, it's almost like the title of the video, like, like in the document, getting more balloons on my, I need to figure out how to turn this Apple thing off. Happens every time. But like, it's almost like the title of the video or something, I guess people sort of parse it as, because like they're trying to like swipe through and it's like, 2 seconds is a decision. So it's almost like that's got to be the title and then you have everything else. So it's like my most popular video. I kind of had a feeling this is going to be very popular is when I clipped Harlan County, USA, and it just starts out with, I just made sure it's like, I'm not after a man, I'm after a contract. I was like, well, that's a great opening. It's like people will be interested in that. And then like I replayed the clip from the start, but yeah, it's not necessarily me. I don't know if I would have started the video naturally myself doing that. It's kind of something like algorithmically driven, which you probably saw, I guess, a lot as a script reader, as like could you tell, I guess, when people are like, when it like I guess be curious, like, were there scripts that you read that where it's like, oh, I almost wish this person didn't adhere to the structure, or like you could tell they were kind of like taking this idea that might have been more interesting and kind of putting it into, like, knowing that someone like you is going to read it and have to think about like, well, it needs to, like, because you're, filtering for the executives and the actors and other stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think one thing that I like, why I say like recovering script reader, is just because like that element is really hard to turn off whenever I'm watching something. So I'm always like, well, I wish they would have done this, or I wish this would have been stronger, or they could have done this.
Mm,
Um, I wasn't reading so much for structure, I don't think. Like it would sort of be, if it was a strong script, it would just sort of be built into everything else that they were doing, and then I wouldn't be paying necessarily attention to what the structure is. Um, yeah, I feel like if it were like a weak script, I would probably be more aware of those things. Like if if nothing happened in the first act, or um if they like planted something really early on and then it never paid off, I would note that. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I did read a lot of weird scripts that obviously haven't gone anywhere, but
hmm
they like sometimes it would be like a musical, like a crime musical, or I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know that I'm fully answering your question, but I think that when the script is really good, you're not necessarily paying attention to a lot of those things. You're just immersed.
hmm
So I think almost the more important thing is, I mean, obviously you want to have, I think, an idea of where your script's going and then try to hit those beats where it makes sense. But characters matter a lot. The
mm
actual, like, do we understand what they want? Do we understand where they're going, who they are? Those types of things I think are, I do my, so whenever I like watch a movie with my husband, I am very much like, I think, an overall plot narrative person. He's more so, I think, a character person. But
mm
I, yeah. I mean, I really like things to move well. I really like things to make sense.
hmm
And when I say make sense, just mean like make sense for the narrative, or like make sense for character choices and things
in
like
the
that.
world that they're inhabiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that things can be confusing or ambiguous. I am fine with that too.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's probably a good segue into kind of asking, like, when you, like, what makes a good movie for you?
Mm.
Because it's funny you say, like, you watch movies with your husband, he's more into characters, you're more into plot structure. With my brother Matt, shout out my brother Matt, I watch a lot of movies with him, and he is definitely much more like character driven, I would say, than I am. But also, yeah, I'd be curious, like, when you're like, what are you looking for when you're watching a movie? Because, like, as an example, so I don't even know if I went over this in the beginning of the episode. The movie that I traded for RoboCop was Predator 2, which is, I hadn't seen it in years. I was really excited. I had watched Predator. Actually, this shows you how bad of a hinge date I am. I had had a date with a lady a couple months ago where we watched Predator because she was like, "Oh, you watch something at first." I was like, "How about Predator?" Because I'd love
Uh,
to. Yeah, and she actually ended up liking it.
and then you did
So
the handshake.
yeah, we did. Yeah, we did the yeah, we did the handshake.
Yeah, to answer your question, I was thinking about that when you asked that initially. Um, I think for me, what I enjoy about a film is when it is like a singular experience.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is I like to see a character deal with a situation that perhaps no one else ever has. Um, and to me, that means like, is the idea really unique? Is it a different take on something that maybe we've seen before that they're experiencing in a new way? The moment that I always think of when I sort of like strive for that feeling in a work or in something that I'm working on is, I don't know if you've seen Chernobyl, the miniseries.
yeah, yeah,
Oh my
for sure.
gosh,
Love it.
so beautiful, so good. But that moment where one of those first technicians is standing on the roof and they're like, look over," and he looks into that like
Oh yeah.
boiling smoke, and I'm like, no one else saw that like he saw that. And I'm just like, that's kind of the feeling that I'm looking for when I watch something, is like that person just experienced something that no one else experienced. So I think when I'm like watching something and really enjoying something, it's like, oh, this is totally new. This character is facing something that no one else has ever faced.
Mm.
And I know that's very hard and near impossible to do on in a lot of works, but man, I just love that feeling so much. I
Yeah.
just think it's such an interesting, like, what are they going to do next? What will happen? How will that affect them? I think I just love that journey of going with a character through those sorts of situations.
Yeah. Yeah. It was certainly that, and like a, even if it is something probably like a new point of view too, like if it is like a, you know, just a police procedural, right? Like just like a new point of view on it, probably from that, I think is good. Is there something that like you um like is there something that you're, I don't want to say a stand for, but like, you know, something where like probably you almost overweight like from a like a weighting scale, like, or something that could rescue a movie otherwise, or like something that like probably the critical consensus might say that like, oh, this movie's not good, but if it has X, Y, or Z that you're like more of a fan of. I think about this with like, you know, I think Predator 2 is great for a lot of reasons, which we'll get into, but like it's shot so well that it's like, and there's so much good, like weird, like sort of blue and yellow lighting in it. It's like, it will never go below a 3. Like, I don't, if, even if it was like a movie about how stupid of a person I am, particularly, that was just insulting me, I was like, well, it's still shot really well, right?
Mm.
Is it, do you have something like that? Like, is it like
Mm.
cinematography or sound or like,
I mean, cinematography will definitely help, and I agree that that movie's beautiful, and the special effects in a lot of parts are really good.
yeah,
Um,
a lot of parts.
Same for RoboCop. I mean, I think
Oh,
RoboCop's
yeah.
still so beautiful, but yeah, I mean, in those cases, I think if there's a character that I can latch on to, you can say Stan. Like if they're like, oh my gosh, I love this person, like I care
Oh,
about
yeah.
this person, then then I'll give a pass to like the rest of whatever is bad, almost. Just for me as a viewer, not like being a critical person, but yeah, I mean, Trap comes to mind. Like I
Mhm.
loved that character so much. I just thought that that was such a fun role for Josh Hartnett to play,
Oh, yeah,
that
love that movie.
I was like, I don't know why y'all hate this so much. Like this is actually great.
Yeah, I didn't get the hate. That was a, so me, I watched that with my went to see that with my buddy who's a big M Night Shyamalan fan, and he's kind of like we like, I think he's the closest thing, and I'm not insulting him, like please audience, like this is like pure love. I think he's the closest thing to sort of the dumb side of Hitchcock that we have in like modern, like a lot of like the more goofier dumb side of like Alfred Hitchcock. He is like, he has that same, especially with Trapped, where it's like he's doing his thing so hard that he just pulled you along into it, where he's like, yeah, I love, I couldn't understand why people didn't like, I was like, they, I feel like they, there's like a wavelength that people can't tune into sometimes,
Mm.
where like if you just like, whatever the frequency is, you just gotta like, if you just settle into the M Night Shyamalan frequency, you're like, oh, this is like, you know, you just gotta, you gotta settle in there, and it's like go for the ride, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, fully agree.
yeah, that was a great one. I loved him. I was thinking about him on the Weird Connection, but like on the Criterion copy of Rebecca, the 1940 movie with Laurence Olivier and I think it is it Joan Fontaine. I'm gonna forget the,
I believe
and
so. I need to
yeah,
buy that one. It's on my list.
yeah, it's a, just did a couple videos of it. Is Joan Fontaine, and shout out especially Judith Anderson, who is plays the, and George Sanders, honestly, and Franz Waxman, the music. Oh, such a good movie. But they have a great Criterion booklet where David O. Selznick, the producer of it, who also did Gone with the Wind, Hitchcock was trying to take the novel, which is like this famous novel about like, you know, women's isolation and like, you know, Trapped, and it's by Daphne du Maurier, and you know, a lot of um like gender themes and like queer themes and all this, and like Hitchcock was trying to like put a whole bunch of slapstick in it, and it's like the most fascinating discussion between like a producer and a director, because like it's one of it's probably my favorite, second favorite, I mean it's up there in the top 3 for me, which I just adore, with Rear Window and Vertigo for Hitchcock for me. But Hitchcock, when his like original writing, when he was working on whoever the original writer was like trying to put some scenes in it of like Laurence Olivier like vomiting and like, you know, him getting seasick multiple times and like him falling down and like being a doofus. And like David O. Selznick writes like this 6-page letter. He's like, buddy, this is a women's movie. Like, it not meaning that insulting. He's like, you're taking this thing and you're making it like this sort of stupid, silly thing. It's like, you need to totally throw this script out because like you need to, you know, do X, Y, or Z. And the Shyamalan connection is like, I feel like Hitchcock does that and it works in some stuff, where he gets to be a little sillier. And certainly he has like a taste for the macabre. But I think like the sillier side of Shyamalan that Hitchcock that would have been so inappropriate for Rebecca, I think I see a lot of Shyamalan in where he's like, I don't know. So I love him. I'm late coming to him because I hadn't ever seen. I think the only movie I'd seen from him for years was The Sixth Sense, and then I watched in the last year Unbreakable and Trapped and some of this other stuff. So yeah, it's like, did you like Hartnett in that, or just like, are you a Shyamalan fan? Or I hope I'm saying his name right. I never know how to say his name.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love his movies. I don't think that his last ones have been the strongest, but I'll see every single one of them.
Yeah,
Like,
he's got a pass, you know?
Yeah, and I think I mean, I love that he goes for it, and he knows what he wants to do, and he won't let anyone tell him not to do it. So yeah, I definitely will keep seeing his stuff.
And he's one of the few people that still sort of probably still get to make movies according to his vision, I would think, because they're generally so financially successful, right?
Well, I think I don't want to say this incorrectly.
Does he?
I think he might self-fund some of his stuff.
Oh, that would make sense. He probably has a ton of money if he owns a lot of it, because I know so many of his movies make so much money.
Yeah, he's been self-financing since around 2015. So he just is like, it's my money and I'll do what I want. And that's how I can cast my daughter.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
as like a pop star, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. So I think
or his daughter his daughter's the pop star, not the fan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he does whatever he wants with his own money.
That's so cool. Megalopolis style.
Yeah, not the same.
I saw that. That was actually so this is, you know, I've been trying to do a little bit more research on folks. So I saw that you had a letterbox. This might be a recurring segment where you have to defend your letterboxed opinions. But actually, surprisingly, here's the thing. I was actually, you and I seem to have very similar movie tastes. There was like really not much where we disagreed on. I think that was actually one of the ones is I think you put maybe Megalopolis at like a 2 or 2.5 or 1.5 or something.
Probably. I was not happy with that one, unfortunately.
Slam dunk 5-star for me. Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I can see how people would really like it. I can't remember what my review is. Where is that?
I was dying laughing the whole movie. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah, and it was so funny because I went shout out my buddy Max, who's one of my best friends, and he comes over and watches like me and my buddies do like a Friday movie night where we like do a double feature and we switch off. Kind of some of the origins of the podcast actually is like we just each take turns picking something, and you know, no restrictions, whatever people want to watch. So last night we actually had a good. I think I have the movies here because I need to rip them. It was a fantastic night of movies because there's actually a 3-movie night for me because we watched Kiss Me Deadly. Yeah. If you like Raiders of the Lost Ark, pay attention to my channel because Raiders of the Lost Ark basically rips off the ending scene of this. One of the very funniest dumb guy movies I think I've ever seen. Also dumb lady movies. The idea is basically it has like picture the stupidest guy and gal that you knew in high school, and then picture them like opening a box of plutonium that is also like a nuclear bomb, and that's basically the movie. It was one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen. And then we watched Conspirators of Pleasure.
I've not seen that one.
Have you seen I think it's like there's something, it's called Alice or Faust, the stop motion ones.
Yeah.
Same person.
Okay.
Jan Svankmajer. And I'm ready for audience. He's a genius on the level of like a Tarkovsky or a John Ford or a Spielberg. This is a totally silent movie, just about 6 people's kinks basically. And it has a mixture of stop motion, and it's completely. The sound design in it is some of the most, some of the best. Like because there's no dialogue, so it's all just like sound design. It's all just people like really I guess the word would be gooning out over like textures and like everything else. It's a fascinating movie. Um, but the I've totally lost my train of thought now thinking about that movie. But the we normally do the movie night on Friday, and so I was talking about my buddy Missy. I'm having to go back in my head. This is why I'm a terrible interviewer. But my buddy Max hadn't seen a movie in theaters for probably 12 years before seeing Megalopolis. So his like reintroduction to seeing a movie in theaters was seeing Megalopolis in like, you know, IMAX on open or whatever it was on opening night. And I was just watching him watch it, and he loved it. But it was just a fight because I think he had seen like the one of the Star Wars movies, like probably Force Awakens, and then it had been like all the way since Megalopolis. So
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. Well, I'm glad that you all had a good time.
you did not have a good time.
Oh, it was a hard screening for me, but I don't know if you also had like the question and answer ahead
I
of
missed
that.
that. No,
Oh, it was like so long. It took forever.
did it?
And
I was wondering about that.
and Mr. Coppola he was rambling a little, but it was fine. It was fine. It was a good memory. It was a fun time.
Yeah, it was very much an old guy movie. Like it was definitely like a movie made by like a 90-year-old guy or however old Coppola is. But
Yeah.
the idea of earning $150 million and then just being like just spending it just to make that movie in particular, it could have gone below a 5-star for me. Like even if it was again just purely insulting me, it's like that's the coolest thing I've ever heard anyone do. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Megalopolis, yeah, Megalopolis, and then I think the ones I was lower than you, were Barbie, Longlegs, and Nosferatu,
Mm.
and then I was higher on Licorice Pizza and La La Land. I gotta know, so you don't like La La Land as well?
Ooh, I gotta defend my Damien Chazelle feelings. I'm
I'm just
generally,
curious.
yeah, I'm generally not like a fan of his his portrayal of Hollywood, I guess.
Mm.
Um, I
Too
I
cutesy,
love.
too optimistic, or what's the
I mean,
too reverential?
I'm not. I just am not sure that it fully resonates for me. Like, I feel like there were moments of Babylon that I really connected
Mm.
with, but I just feel like I think with him, I feel like the filmmaker almost imposing his opinion like too much on what's happening, and
Mm.
I feel like I might just not fully be aligned with him as like a
Mm.
filmmaker or a writer. So when so much of him is so clearly like in the work and like having a character talk about jazz, talk at a woman about jazz, I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
So and I love a musical and I like all those actors, but yeah, I did not love La La Land, but I think it
Yeah.
was also sort of a reaction of everybody saying like this is the best, and then I have sort of a I have like a recoil reaction.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I'll see everything and I'll see all his movies and I'll find things to like about all of them, but um yeah, sometimes I'm just not feeling everything that he's doing. But I love Whiplash. I think Whiplash is great.
Yeah. That is an interesting observation that he is. You can definitely feel that it's a I already forget his name, Damien Chazelle movie. Like he's just like terms of like filmmakers, like probably I would say it's almost feels different than I think a lot of modern ones. He definitely feels like more, I think very self consciously old Hollywood,
Mm,
but probably more in like I think like in like a kind of a Howard Hawks like Spielberg like um sort of lineage rather than like maybe I don't know something more naturalistic. I feel like there's been like more of a kind of the filmmakers. It feels like I don't know. I'd be curious your thoughts on this, but it feels like in general the trend is sort of like it doesn't seem like as many filmmakers have a particular style, I guess, or like that you can sort of notice that like this is their type of movie, like in the way that you could probably with like a Howard Hawks movie or like a Hitchcock movie or even like a Spielberg movie where it's like, you know, the way he moves the camera and everything, it's like, well, this is you notice the director being there. It feels is do you think that's like less now or compared
I
with older
I
stuff?
I think I do agree with that. I mean, it's there are going to be the unique ones, but some people are so and I don't mean this as like an insult, but like functional as filmmakers, where it's just like
Mm.
you're not really, you almost don't notice certain things about how the movie is being. I do think Spielberg is definitely like, oh, this is a Spielberg movie, and partially because of the sentimentality of it, and
Yeah.
partially just because of how they look. But I mean, I love Spielberg too. So yeah, I don't know if there is. I do think that it is less so. I mean, Quentin Tarantino will be the
Yeah.
outlier, I think, and any of those sort of like more creative filmmakers calling
Yeah.
back
Wes
to
Anderson.
yeah,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah, I think that yeah, I think there is sort of, especially I think more so on TV, sort of
Hmm.
a just like get the thing done
Yeah.
approach to a lot of work.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like an increasing, like, when you're talking about like the script reader, going back to that, like about the increasing, not increasing, but like this sort of like it has to happen on this and that and the other thing. Like maybe it's just that the formula is different, because certainly a lot of the old ones had a formula, like, and probably the thing that existed, and there's so many of them were like studio writers who were writing, like, the output of them were like, it's so crazy. These old Hollywood folks have like 100 scripts to them. It's like, oh, I want to, get into reading like Ben Hecht. It's like, well, he wrote like 80 scripts or something like that, or 80 movies, or John Ford did 111 movies or something.
Mhm.
So I do wonder if it's that.
I do think that like visuals almost have become secondary to
Mm.
because when a big visual moment happens, like a Greg Fraser moment happens, I'm like, they didn't have to do it that way, but they did. But it doesn't happen a lot when
Yeah.
I'm watching a lot of like mainstream movies right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's something I wonder about that stylistically. With the, I think is my theory on this. I need to make a video on it, but like the combination of like everyone loves really shallow focus, like film. They also like doing it because of CGI, because like you don't want the background too much because that complicates things with CGI, right? If you're, especially if you're blue screening stuff, the lighting, you want it to be flatter because more abstract lighting and more like harsher shadows and everything complicates CGI. Also, streaming. Most people view the movies as streaming now.
Mhm.
A lot of the streaming algorithms, like they, um, to compress it, they will specifically focus on things that are not in focus, as part of like their algorithm. So it's like a whole thing where it's just like you have these like very flat images that are very just the person in the center of the frame and everything. And it's like there's a
Mm.
scene in Predator 2 that I love in the parking lot when the Danny Glover's
Yes.
partner, and it's just like it's just tracking it. I'm sure I was like, I really rewound that last time. I was like, this is like just the example of this, of like tracking down and then going to this huge crane shot, and it's just like
Hmm.
just for a random shot there, it's
Yeah.
so gorgeous.
Yeah,
You know.
I agree. Yeah, we watched Kiss Kiss Bang Bang recently, and there's
Mm,
um a very specific moment like after Robert Downey Jr. visits Michelle Monaghan, and it's like a really long lens shot, and you have these
mm,
palm trees in the distance, and it's like you can just tell the camera is very far away. And I love a
yeah,
long lens, and I love a far away shot. So
yeah,
yeah, and you just don't see that as much anymore.
yeah. The normal lens I use, I don't know where my camera is at the moment, but whenever I'm taking pictures. I just walk around taking pictures, or I do like behind the scenes pictures for like my friends' little short films. It's always with like an 11 to 20 lens or like a 70 to 200, and I want to get like a 200 to 600. It's like
Mm.
anything in the middle. I just want to go like it's just not as. But I've been taking a lot of stuff with like using a way wide open wide angle like 11, and it's been really cool. I love the look of it. Actually, a good movie that did that. I'd Poor Things actually used a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
those wide. I love that.
Yes.
Remember, my buddy didn't like it when one of my buddies didn't like it when we watched him. I was like, this is so. I think it's different. I was like, this is probably, if it's at least different, I'm like, ooh, that's, interesting.
Yeah.
So be curious, how did you like get into movies? So you said you were a journalism, journalism major in college. Did you, and then you became like a script reader. Um, were movies something that you, sort of were just very into as a kid, or is this like you got into them like in college or high school? Like, how was your journey with that?
Yeah, I was always a film nerd. Um, when I was growing up, I would make like on camcorders, we would make silly movies, like
Very
just
cool.
silly short films, and yeah, I just love that. I love the process of creativity, And I think I always knew I wanted to write um, something.
Yeah.
And screenplays are a little bit easier than novels. So,
Yeah. For
um,
sure.
but yeah, I've always loved movies.
Is there a particular movie that you remember like as sort of like adult Joe or teenage Joe, or like do you remember
Mm,
like the example I always give is a weird one for me, but Boogie Nights when I was 13 was the first R-rated movie I ever watched by myself. And yeah, I just remember then I watched like Punch Drunk Love and I was like, oh, I love P2. PTA is like the first drug. I was like, okay, for me, like not something my parents showed me, but like for me discovering someone's like, I love PTA. So do you have like an experience
uh,
like that?
uh, yeah, I mean, movies were always very influential. So Jurassic Park, I remember loving. It made me want to be an archaeologist. But then after that, it was Apollo 13, and I
Mm.
wanted to be an astronaut. Um, strangely, but yeah, I'm trying to think. I wasn't allowed to watch scary movies when I was a kid.
Mm.
Um, my parents didn't like them. So I do think watching like I think I watched The Shining for the first time
Oh,
when I went to college, and now it's like my favorite movie of all time. So
yeah.
I just wasn't allowed to watch those. So that would probably be one like that first sent me down the path of.
That's interesting. I think that might have been the first one that I sort of sat through, and even though I was horrified, I loved because I think I might have told this on the pod maybe at one episode, but my dad my dad's a huge horror and science fiction guy, and my older brother Matt really loved all the slashers. So like my dad, I remember there's like a story uh, he let me watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre with him when I was like 4, just sitting next to him.
I love it.
I still haven't seen it again. I still because it was
Oh,
so terrifying for me as a yeah no yeah my buddy yeah I
I mean,
know it's yeah.
it's another one that's so beautiful. Has it's more beautiful than it has the right to be. Like the
If I
reds
can
are so red.
get a good like prescription from my doctor, I guess for some Valium or something, I'll go back. But like I remember it freaked me out because like I literally it's like one of my like one of the few like early childhood memories I have is like my mom saying like, you know, what are you doing? Don't let him watch that. And my dad's like, he's 4, he doesn't know what's going on. He's not gonna. And I was like, of course I did. It freaked me out.
Uh-huh.
And then I watched The Ring with him when I was like 12 or 13, and that scared the hell out of me.
That
But then I
movie's
think The Shining, probably around 15 or 16, I watched with him, and but that was the first one I was like, okay, this is like, I love this, even though it just terrified me. That's
so
a great
good.
movie. Yeah. Well, cool. Okay, so let's get into the movies. Um, so why did you pick RoboCop? I was curious.
Ooh, I love RoboCop. It was in my top four for a little while. Um, I love this movie. I think, and I was saying when I rewatched it last night, I was like, I would have loved to be in the theater for this. I feel like it would have been bonkers, just because of like how hyper violent it is.
Mm,
I just think it is. I think it would have been so fun to watch live, and the villain is so good, and the whole like third act sequence is incredible. I just love this movie, and I think it does speak to that love I have of like this character is going through something no one else around understands what he's going through, and he's going through it by himself,
mm.
and he's just fighting and fighting, and I love that. I love that in a protagonist.
Yeah, Red Foreman, shout out Kurtwood Smith as the really makes you watch that 70s show in a different way after watching
I
RoboCop.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I would think of him first for that. I think I would think of him first for this.
I well, so it was interesting. I watched a lot of that 70s shows. Like it was just one of those shows that came on probably when I was middle school, high school, that just came on, and so I only knew him from that. I didn't actually see RoboCop until a couple of years ago, probably like maybe 2 years ago. It just was one of those sort of blind spots. So this is my second time watching it, and yeah, loved it. He's so good in this. I mean, everybody's really good in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was. I'm glad you picked it because I'd been meaning to give it a rewatch, and it's tremendous. I was able to get I don't know where it's the 4K of it. So I
Oh,
yeah watched it especially, and it was
that's
really
nice.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah. Score is great too. I love the music.
yeah,
Yeah, I love the way it looks. I love
yeah,
Dallas for Detroit. It's great.
yeah. Is you said it was Dallas?
Yeah, it's Dallas.
Really? That
Uh-huh.
makes sense. That makes sense that it's Dallas. It now that you say it, like I wouldn't have been able to call that, but it makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the buildings are so unique, a lot of it.
Yeah.
The special effects, they look great. Like
Yeah. Stop
those,
motion, right?
yeah, it's all stop motion. It looks beautiful. The only part I don't like in terms of VFX is like the very end when the bad guy falls. Like that doesn't look great, but still it's a great moment.
Yeah. I think the yeah, there's I think it really held up. Even the bad guy falling, it's like, it's just still it has an easier time, I think, selling its CGI, or not CGI, but selling its special effects than most movies, because like it's meant to be so over the top, right? It's like that's
Mhm.
the deliberate part of it. So yeah, definitely. I liked it even more, I think, on this. So when I watched it, I was like, this is like I was actually kind of upset a little bit when I watched it the first time, believe it or not, because like I was like, this is really good, and it's like I think I put it at like 4 stars. I was like, this is good, but like I'd been hearing, like, especially in the last couple of years, it's like, oh, this is one of the greatest like things ever, and this and that, and like watching again, it's like I definitely agree with that on the second watch, but on the first watch, I think I was a little upset because I was like, well, this is it's like it reminded me so much of like T2 and Last Action Hero, and like I don't know, it's like it almost had been hyped up too much for me on the first watch, where I was like, this is really good, but it's just a little like I was like it's a goofy, silly movie with a lot of like super super cool themes. But then for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, this is like really good, but it's not like I don't know if I'd put it like, some people it's like, oh, it's the greatest science fiction movie ever made or something. I was like, I don't know, like I don't know about that. But then on this watch, like I was like, yeah, I probably was a little bit stupid on the first watch. This whips ass.
Yeah,
Like I just liked it more and more.
it's just it is, and it's so rewatchable too. It's just
Yeah.
like you, those performances are great. There's so many great lines. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of like Tombstone for me. I could watch Tombstone over and
Mm,
over and over again, and it feels like a movie that's better than it has any right to be. Like this is so silly and so violent, and all these like news segments are ridiculous but too real.
yeah.
Yeah, I love the way it looks, and I love everything about it.
Yeah, I think to the point about the conversation about wavelengths, I don't think I was on the Verhoeven wavelength, because I think this is my first Verhoeven movie, and having since seen Total Recall, and a couple of other movies by him, I can't remember. Um, yeah, it's like, especially like as a companion piece with Total Recall, just it just seemed like another very sort of similar movie about like he strikes me as a guy who both is very incisively critical of America, but also he's both reveling in all the gory stuff. He's like, you all are idiots, but I'm also an idiot, and I kind of he's like, I
Hmm.
kind of get it, I kind of love it, but hey, we're all idiots here, like, and this is pretty bad, there's something about him that I really quite liked.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you like? Okay, so I picked Predator 2. What's the verdict? I tried, but you didn't put it on Letterboxd. So I was like, I was like, I
I
wonder if she
logged
liked it or
it, but
not.
I didn't rate it. Yeah, you're right. I liked it a lot. I think I'd seen like the ending. I had
Mm,
seen like those iconic VFX, like the water. Um, so those moments were familiar to me. I loved it. I think I was from the beginning, I was like, oh, I understand why you picked this because it does feel very, it's a little bit later, but it does feel very aligned with sort of that commentary on the Reagan era and
yeah,
the the dare and all that.
yeah,
Um,
very Verhoeven-y.
yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's so sweaty.
Oh yeah,
I do love the way this looks too. I think this has some really beautiful shots and is also very violent.
yeah,
Probably not so much in a satirical way. It's more just like straight up violence, but still,
yeah,
I'm like all for these. I'm like, wow, they really took the skin off of all these people, and then
yeah,
they show it in full light. I'm like, this is brave.
yeah,
I love it.
Y- yeah. It was amazing to me. I think, like, honestly, I didn't realize the extent of which watching them close together, like, because I watched RoboCop first, and then Predator 2 last night. It seemed like it was very influenced by RoboCop. Like, just in a lot of the like, there's just it seemed like a lot of shots and stuff that were very similar, and just like obviously the tone of it, I think, is like very similar. It was kind of crazy to me how both movies were so predictive of I guess like the next, because it was 87 and 1987 for RoboCop, 1990 of Predator 2. They're very like grim at the time, I guess, like grim predictions of what the future would be. But like, yeah, RoboCop, the corporatization of police and like, just the general like corporate fascism, Reagan. Obviously, that was like in big during the Reagan years, cities falling apart. But then Predator 2 also with like the global warming, everything being busted, like also the hyper violence of the cities, also like the militarization of everything, the proliferation of guns. Yeah, one thing both of these like I miss so blockbusters with like, I know it's like, it seems like the common complaint is like, oh, everything's too woke now. Like, not the common complaint from a certain segment of people is like movies are pretty woke, but like I don't think I've seen a blockbuster with the type of social messaging. Like, these are fairly both like radical movies, I think, in terms of like political content. Yeah, I guess like, did you find them also as predictive as like the the next like 35 years of America gonna like,
Yeah, unfortunately. I
you know
mean, I think just particularly in like RoboCop's case, just the commentary there is so incisive in terms of like, we are going to just go down into this, like, we're all crashing and burning, but we're gonna be super commercial about it. And I feel
mhm.
like we're living through a lot of that period through the last few years. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that it's all a little too relevant. But at least and with both of these, I feel like there's at least a little bit of a cheekiness that it's still enjoyable to watch.
yeah, yeah. It's they're fun. I think they can be joined on multiple levels, right? I think probably the message. I mean, famously, I think probably Verhoeven's Starship Troopers.
Hmm.
I think there's perpetual arguments on like Twitter and everything about that, about like, oh, it's not even a satire. It's like, no, the bugs are evil or whatever, right? Like, it just, there's a certain segment of people who just enjoy it just for like, oh yeah, we get to kill some bugs, but then like the actual message is, is what it is.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think let me load up. I'm gonna share my screen and let's go through the fits of the movie. That'll probably give us. I've been noticing that the fits have been sort of longer because I've been trying to actually get. Might change this to be like fits and shots, because also like just been, especially with both these movies, trying to do the. Okay, so let me get. I think I have RoboCop first. If I can. Let's see. Make sure I have you here. All right. I think I got it good. You see this all right?
Let me make this a little bit bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, we can go through some. So hello everyone, if you're just watching the Fit sub episode that we release on YouTube, we are going through the fits and probably some cinematography and just shots from RoboCop and Predator 2. So first, the old Orion logos. I think they changed this, and yeah, it was real bad. The it's I in my I have worked for a consumer research company in my personal everything's personal life, but like in my non-movie life, and I did a survey at one point on the old logo versus the new logo, and basically everyone likes the old logo. So I don't know why they ever changed it into the chunky one, but so yeah, going through RoboCop, we start out with these great shots of RoboCop. This actually reminded me quite a bit of Network, I think, like the opening of it with the TVs and the surveillance and everything. One thing I noticed that there was there was like a big surveillance theme in both movies that I thought was like, again, definitely anticipatory. I think
Yeah.
betrayed some anxieties. So what do you think about these? Do you like this suit? This
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I love these characters.
Yeah.
Who I've had these actors' names written down and I've lost them, but I love that the movie starts like this. I love the news segments.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. I love this green shoulder pad situation.
Yeah. It's real like this opening is like real kind of zone of interest style.
Mm.
Is the way like the movie is almost putting the viewer as like, I think in the thinking about like your interview you did with the sound editor on zone of interest, like, just sort of you got to live your like living your life while it's like, yeah, you log on the news today, it's like, well, militarization of like some third world country that we invaded, and like, oh, we're having some new giant space laser weapon, and then there's a commercial for a heart. like
Yeah.
like an artificial heart or something. Get your heart put in. Um, yeah, this is all so good. Then we go to Richard Jones, who is Ronnie Cox, right? Shout out Ronnie Cox. Yeah. How I guess in are you generally like when we talk about the things that you like or dislike in movies, how big into the costumes are you? Are you like the design
Oh,
just for
yeah.
themselves?
I've talked to costume designers and they have such a big job that goes unnoticed a lot of times,
Yeah.
where you have to define a person instantly by how they appear, like in the first 3 seconds. Um, if it's like standard costumes like this, I feel like it's especially hard because it's like you have to define someone by like a daily uniform that almost
Mm,
everyone else is wearing too.
yeah. For sure. I thought they did a great job with the corporate folks in here. I mean, this was definitely like so much of an anti-yuppie like 80s movie,
Yeah.
right? And you can even, I mean even him with this, he's got the vest on as opposed to like, this guy's very TV news anchor coded, right?
Yeah. Striped shirt.
Yeah. Okay, so you got this is Dallas.
Yes. Yeah. It's
That's
all, I believe all Dallas.
that is wild.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if the like the what is it, the gas pipes and
Oh, like
not the
the big plant.
yeah, the big plan. I'd be curious if that seemed very Detroit coded to me, but I think that's probably me just thinking like, oh, it's a decrepit city, like, or it's like a abandoned factory or something. But I'd be curious if that was like a
That was in Pennsylvania.
wow. How
Hmm.
about that? They went all over the place.
Yeah.
Because we got lovely Dallas. I guess that's probably why they. I mean, I don't know. Is Detroit flat? I think probably the Midwest is fairly flat, right? Certainly
Mm,
not as Dallas is pretty flat, right?
I think
Trying
so,
to
yeah.
think. Yeah. Then you got these guys. Great
Mhm.
production design here.
And there's that haze that
Yeah.
I love.
There's the haze. Yeah, the haze, the bloom lights. Just the light coming in from here. Even though this is all a big set, this is the funniest intro to a cop. Just
Oh
this
yeah.
like he also looks.
He's
I'd be
so
curious
skinny
what they
in
were.
this.
Yeah, he's so skinny in it. And I'd be curious what they were thinking. Like, you got to separate him from the other cops. So he's like a bit more put together, a little bit less sort of greasy and ratty.
Hmm.
Um, and then they go through here. Love all these outfits. Interesting. They had the intergender changing
Yeah.
room, which I don't know if that's even still a thing. I would, or not still a thing, but I don't know if that's a thing now.
I'd
Um,
highly doubt it.
I would highly,
This
yes,
feels very Verhoeven to me. It's just like throw them all together.
yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it was like, also like, well, in the future they're
Hmm.
gonna have this. Love this guy's glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you got some of the well, it's interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
The perps.
Yeah, the perps. The perps in both movies, they are some of the most like you have some evil criminals in this. Like some just very like I'm doing crime for crime's sake type like, which I think is the point of this satire, right? Of like this is sort of how these people view the world. Um, and then this, I always forget her name. She was married to Brian De Palma, I think, in a lot of his movies.
Nancy Allen.
Nancy Allen, that's the one. Yeah, I always get her in the who's the lady from Raiders of the Lost Ark? Is that also named Nancy? I want to say. Now I'm gonna go crazy if I can.
Karen Allen.
Karen Allen. Okay, so Nancy Allen, Karen Allen, who I don't think are related.
I don't think
Um, I gotta say she looks more like a Karen, and
so. Yeah.
yeah, Karen Allen looks more like a Nancy. This is my head canon. Yeah. So we switched from that. We got these great. So you point about these are some great yuppie
Interiors.
corporate looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 but also just like the executives, I think too, right?
Hmm.
Miguel Ferrer.
Love him.
Yeah, yeah. He's great in Twin Peaks. He does such a good job. Him and Ronnie Cox. I mean, these are some really awful villains,
Yeah.
and even the old guy too.
Hmm.
Yeah. Then to your point about dress, he's got this nice suit. It's kind of an older dude suit. You can definitely tell these are executives more.
I love
And then
their
you
bald
got
babies.
yeah, yeah. Then you got this stuff coming in.
Oh,
This
it looks so good.
yeah. Yeah. I let me tell you, I've had demos like this where like in my
It just breaks and kills someone.
To be honest with you, yeah, this is I've had demos go about as bad as this one.
Ugh,
I was like shouting at the screen when I first watched this. I was like, buddy, don't like,
don't do it.
never. There's like Murphy's Law with demos. It's always gonna go wrong. And yeah, he gets lit up,
Yeah.
which
I think it's hilarious here where he's like running into the group and they all, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's like a theme I think as well, like the that happens I don't think I screenshotted it here, but the when the one villain in Kurtwood Smith's gang gets covered in toxic waste, he tries to like go up to Ray Wise or whatever. Ray Wise is like, get away
Yeah.
from me.
Pure horror. I love that moment too.
Yeah. So then perfect scene was like this was even again as predictive. I love this the commentary he does here of he says like he's not even upset that the guy died. He's like, do you know what this will have with like what this will cost us in interest payments? It's like that's so brutal. I think it's like it's not even like to say like to have him not even care about the guy's death is like one level of like sort of disrespect and like I guess like I don't know, like anger at these people. But then like to say like, do you know what this will cost us is one. But then the third thing to say like, not only is it going to cost us, but also we're like financialized. We're like leveraging. It's like an additional level of like sort of the corporatization that really grim.
Mhm.
Okay, so we got this guy I thought had the toxic slime guy.
Yes.
What a look on this whole gang, honestly.
The whole gang is like so well dressed for some reason, like
Yeah.
almost businesslike in some of the fits.
Yeah. This guy, I thought it was interesting. Even the scene, like, sort of it didn't spare, and I already forget Nancy Allen's character from like the criticism. Cause like she, it's like the whole, she's like got the guy at gunpoint and then he had just been peeing. But then she like, he like puts his hands up and then, he says like, can I zip up? And then she like, I don't want to say ogles him a little, but almost kind of ogles him a little. And then he like, knocks her out or whatever. But it's like, yeah, that reminded me, not to get too dark of a story on the podcast, but my dad was a public defender, criminal defense lawyer, in Springfield, Massachusetts, which is like a fairly, at least in the 90s, a fairly heavily black town. So he had like a lot of black clients and just as a lawyer. And there was a thing, I remember one of the stories he told me, it was like someone asked on my channel the other day about like, how I grew up or something, but like there was always like sort of like a don't trust the cops type attitude in my house, like just in general, because my dad's stories and like there was a thing in Springfield in the 90s where the police force is like policy, allegedly, this is all alleged, but allegedly, they were like when they were searching people, they were bringing primarily young black dudes into the middle of the street and like stripping them like to their whole, like stripping them and like doing searches like in public in the middle of the street for everyone as like an attempt to embarrass them. Yeah. And he didn't believe it at first because like one client reported it, but then like multiple clients reported it, and then like he was like, what the hell's going on here? And so then he looked into it and he like he told the judge about it. The judge didn't believe him, and so then like the judge had to like assign like a special investigator and everything to like investigate, and like had to like censure the police and tell them to like knock it off, and like but they were like, yeah, just in terms of that sort of like the domination over the police over it, I thought that was interesting to sort of keep in there. Yeah, you got the helmet. I love this guy in the helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we go through.
Great scene.
Yeah, all these shots, the way the light hits, him and he's sort of flashing back, thinking about his kids. I kind of liked how his family just abandoned him, or they just kind of peace.
I think they just leave. Yeah, I think he dies, which he does, and then they're like, I guess we'll go away.
Yeah, it's interesting how they're still trying to save him too in here, because he gets about 90 gunshots, including a shot to the head, and they're like, oh, let's still trying to revive him. I feel like he probably would have been pronounced DOA or something.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, then it's all this.
I love this sequence.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, you experience the time jump with him.
Yeah. And honestly, even from the perspective of like how, having worked in like, corporate tech America, this is exactly how they would treat this person. I will say, like, just like a chunk of meat, just like we own him. I think there was a great line in there where they say like, should we even do this? And I was like, well, he signed a waiver, so it's like
Yeah.
he doesn't exist. We have the right to his body, right?
Yeah.
And then they're celebrating with him at the Christmas stuff, and kissing him, and it's all like a lot of anxieties about like it's body horror, right? Of like
Mhm.
very much a body horror movie.
I love the way she looks. I love the glasses.
Yeah, the glasses, I will say, aside from the ethics of kissing a revived android, she does look fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, all these people, great yuppie looks.
Hmm.
We come back in here, the lighting through here.
So good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love this. There's so many like delayed reveals in this movie where again, you don't have to do that, and you probably wouldn't now, but they
yeah,
took the time.
yeah. All the me and my buddy watching him. I have a buddy who's a composer. He does like a lot of industrial. He does like a lot of Euro rack like synth modules. He was like just we're pining for all the old technology, all the old
Mhm.
physical. Aside from the little, I guess, meat grinder goop they have. Would you try the goop? I
No.
don't think I would try the goop.
Ugh.
You said baby food, so I'm sure it can't be.
Yeah.
The shiny, the POV shots. I like how they hint the directive for classified.
Hmm.
They're going
This,
through all this.
oh, such a
Even this, I do. I mean, even I loved how he shoots the targets and then he blows off the arms. Right? Like, yeah. It's like even he's already hit. It's like he still has sort of a little bit of the police brutality kind of in him.
Mhm.
Yeah. These
Both these movies had short-haired officers, lady
yeah.
officers, which I liked.
Yeah, definitely. Um, these I love the fits on both these guys. And then the first thing he does is he goes to a liquor store after
Why
and
not?
meets. Yeah, well, why not? And he meets like a very over the top criminal who's like, yeah. Oh my goodness, this
Yeah,
scene
this is
so
another
funny.
one.
I mean, I don't say like funny. Like the reason this scene, I'll have to send you. I meant to send this to you to ask you, but have you seen the remake that they did of this fan made remake that they did of this scene?
Oh no, I haven't seen that, but I've seen like the new RoboCop.
Oh, is that any good?
No, I love this movie too much for that to
Gotcha.
be
What's
good.
funny, we'll get into this in movie recommendations because actually, that director, I was actually kind of excited when I saw. I do want to see it because I'll be curious. I probably heard not good things, but he did this movie called Elite Squad in Brazil. That's has a lot of these same type of themes. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I haven't seen that one.
Fascinating movie. It's kind of like a Hurt Locker.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like but for yeah, we'll get into that in a few minutes. But there's a whole remake of this scene that they did, which is like a very over the top, like you know, a great shadow on this. I love the
So good. So
yeah.
good.
They did a so the scene where he shoots the guy. It's basically like so this I forget who did it, but there's this online collective did like a remake of the movie where they did like they each had like a whole bunch of filmmakers each remake a scene, and the people who remade this scene had about 50 criminals, and it was just RoboCop keep shooting them in the groin, and just it's the most over the top thing. That's like it's the most like R-rated thing in the world, but it's like he's like it's shockingly well done. Like it looks as good as the movie, but it's just like after these two guys come out, then like there's like a series of like guys just like showing up in the alley with their pants down, and RoboCop's just like blowing them all away.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But I can't watch this movie now without thinking of it. Yeah, shout out.
Yeah.
I'll see about emailing it to you after, and for the podcast, I'll post it in the notes.
I mean, it's all good. I love
Yeah,
all this.
it's hard, I always the more news stuff. The propaganda started just immediately, where it's like, oh, we got this. They immediately show them with the kids,
Yeah.
then
All
back to the
this,
news.
yeah, it looks really good too. Like you can, like the commercial shot different, like on a
Yeah,
different film stock. It looks great.
yeah, very like JFK also around this
Mhm.
time. I always think of JFK when I think of using all the different film stocks.
Mhm.
More great look by Miguel there. He's so good
So good in this.
in the
Ugh,
bathroom.
I love
Yeah.
this bathroom. I love the scene. I love like the gayness, the gay undertones here.
Yeah. Yeah. the gay undertones, the dominance. I love how Miguel Ferrer goes back at him too, like because he's
Uh-huh.
such an angry guy, right? And like Twin Peaks, and he
Mhm.
just had like he has such an anger that he can draw from. He's not like passive. They make the scene so interesting.
Mhm.
Then our boy starts dreaming. This is the guy who probably looked the closest to me. I kind of wish I had more hair so I could do this fit.
Oh, you should.
Yeah, yeah, definitely those
This eye
glasses with the
patch.
eye patch. Yeah, this lady. I mean, again, she's just. I have to send this to a friend of mine because she looks a lot like this lady. Um, I think she would find it interesting. And we got this guy just sort of bullying a little nerd guy who's just
Trying to read
so over
his
the
math
top.
book.
Yeah, and then he gets hit. Bad luck with cars. It's a a little
Yeah.
bit of foreshadowing here. Takes a bad stunt,
Mhm.
and then we have all these great ones, and like he's not even just a. It's like you think of being a 31-time cop killer, grand theft, would be bad, but they also give him assault and some
Yeah.
other stuff. He finds
Yeah.
out about himself.
Oh,
Goes into his empty house, right?
and I love this house. And I love
Yeah,
these little like robot realtors.
yeah,
I feel like we have that kind of now already. Like those
oh yeah,
stand-ups in front of stores.
yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually start putting these in houses too. What's funny is they put these in houses, but then they didn't like bother cleaning up like the flowers and the other stuff.
Uh,
Yeah, more
yeah.
alienation. Very alienated movie.
Mhm.
Goes in this great club. A lot of great fits in here.
Mhm. I
You
think
got
Verhoeven's in here somewhere, isn't he? Like I
he
feel like he's
is.
dancing.
This is Verhoeven right
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah, I think
Very
he's in
good.
another part of it, or it might be someone else. But um, yeah, we go back with Miguel. Yeah, these ladies, great fits.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
gold, doing the coke, and we got. I love this. Yeah, this is. I should go as him for Halloween. I have the hairline and glasses to pull Kurtwood Smith off in here.
Oh man. Yeah,
And
all
then
these
these are
malls.
somehow an Italian factory, but these are the
Yeah.
least Italian seeming guys I think I've ever seen in a movie.
But everyone's really well dressed still.
Everyone is well dressed. Yeah, this is kind of if you deliver food to my house. This is what me and my brothers kind of look like. So and he goes in here, targets everybody. Just every one of these. I mean, just the light spilling in. This guy with the Kangol hat.
Mhm.
The stunt work in here. This scene looks so fun to shoot. I would love to shoot this scene. There's a couple shots where like he's getting thrown through the glass and he's landing on cardboard boxes. All so good. All these. I want to say, is this a matte painting? I think, or is
I'm
this
not
like a
sure.
yeah? I don't know what this is, but it looks so good. So good. Might be a combination of like a painted backdrop or something. Immediately goes to the. I mean, it's just. Could spend all day on here.
That is Dallas City Hall.
Fascinating. That I wonder if they just sort of added some
I think
stuff to it.
they added the top of it.
Yeah. So he goes in. He has the fight with the Ed 209s, and then Ed. I
Mhm.
felt bad for the Ed 209 here. It's just like a
I
little
know.
cow trying to go down the stairs
I know.
and falls. And this is very Terminator
Oh,
2.
this
Yeah.
sequence. Ugh.
Yeah. The lighting and the everything on here is so
Yeah.
gorgeous. Yeah. I when don't know if I'll have all the time to get into it, but in Predator 2, yeah, I think we were talking about the scene in the parking garage.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of I feel like the way this was shot because of the smoke, because of everything else, like it's so inventive.
Yeah, but I love that whole sequence. It's like such desperation. It's so dark and smoky.
Yeah, and I feel like they probably just like the way having to sort of work around the natural considerations of the set and everything. I feel like just spurs so much creativity in the way they shoot it that you almost figure if you can sort of paint anything in with CGI or whatever else that you'd have more options, but it just doesn't feel as even just like finding this shot, right, being in the parking garage and like finding, oh, that'd be a cool way to shoot that, and let's set it up here. Yeah, I think this is Verhoeven too, maybe potentially.
Oh,
I think I can't
didn't know
remember.
he was in that bit too.
Yeah, yeah. Come 8.2 miles a
Yeah.
gallon. Let's see, 6,000 sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ugh.
we actually get
Yeah, the
space lasers.
laser.
Yeah, and I think I was
Yeah.
curious at the time. So I thought this was going to be Reagan and Nixon because I was laughing at this. He says like it was two former presidents who lived in California,
Mhm.
but I think only Nixon was retired, and maybe Ford was retired in California at that time. Because it was '87. I was like, because both Nixon and Reagan, I think, were from California. So I was like, is he really saying that they got decimated by space lasers? Maybe in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. I love the whole office space. I love the boardroom.
Yeah. I love the 31 cop killing fugitive being able to see, I'm just going to walk into
Yeah.
this space.
Nonchalant.
And how good is these prosthetics?
It really does look amazing.
Yeah. Guy watching I love how everyone we're all just tied together by TV. Very Sullivan's Travels.
Yeah. I love these ridiculous sniper rifles. They're all just carrying around.
The militarization of it all.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Him shooting the baby food.
Yeah. Yeah. From about here to the end is like my favorite part of the movie. I love this part.
Yeah.
It's so good.
The toxic waste.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you're
The
listening on
whole
audio only, we're just kind of nerding out over sort of frame by frame. Yeah, the guy, Ray Wise, like, his look of reaction. These prosthetics.
It looks amazing. Yes.
It gets blown apart.
Yes, and that's what I am here for in terms of like
Yeah.
if the violence or the gore is like this, then I'm like, yay.
Yeah. Very Cronenberg, like history of violence,
Yeah.
right? And then how wet it is. I loved how wet. It's like he goes through a car wash or something when he hits the guy.
Yeah.
Great scene. Yeah, that.
And then he gets blown up.
Nancy Allen gets blown up. Yeah. Gets gone through the heart, but then it doesn't really hurt him that bad.
No, he doesn't have a heart anymore.
Yeah. This one, I thought this was definitely like I love this shot of him through the glass. And then the things like you can't park there. And I thought this was, again, such a great commentary of like they initially start off on like, we need these big things. We need these things to like restore peace because there's always these violent gang wars like in the inner city or whatever. But then it's like immediately they're just like, hey, you're parked in the wrong place. I'm about to light you up. Like immediately the weaponry gets reused for like corporate protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then lastly, he takes the thing is like, oh, actually, you're fired. You're not executive. Which kind of is an ambiguous because, like, does he ever get the directive, like, taken out? I mean, it's like, or is he still...
I don't know. Probably. Yeah. I pretend that the other movies don't exist after this, so...
I haven't seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, that, again, is, like, the only VFX that I don't love, that because it sticks out when everything else is so beautiful.
Yeah. But then the guy, I love the corporate guy's just like, hey, nice job. What's your name, buddy?
Yeah.
It's like, totally.
And this is, I think, one of the best, like, final shots of any movie ever. The way it cut, like, he's almost off screen, and then it cuts, like, early, and then it's just the title card. It's amazing. It's so gratifying. Like, I feel like I would have lost my mind in the movie theater.
Yeah. There's nowhere else for it to go. Like, you don't need any, it's like, you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
It leaves so much to the imagination, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna have to speed run through. So we got a couple of these. So I wanna make sure and get Joe out on time. But yeah, I love the opening of this. It goes from the jungle of Predator 1 into Los Angeles, and then one of the most ridiculous opening scenes with the news.
It's so intense.
Yeah, very RoboCop coded.
And also just like great exposition. Like it's very effective.
Yeah, you called out the Dare font too on this hardcore.
Yeah.
What's interesting, I don't know if I have the, I'll maybe try and email this to you, but this was before World's Wildest Police Videos. There's a whole video I'm going to do on World's Wildest with Sheriff John Bonnell.
Yeah.
But I think they use, like, there's a screenshot that I've, like, sent to my buddies because I'm just such a fan of that, of how ridiculous that show is, which I think is a disaster. I think it did more to, like, poison American minds than like almost anything. All those like World's Most Shocking and all that Fox schlock from like the 90s. But they use like the same font because like, and there's this intro that John Bonnell does where he's like domestic violence, and they just have domestic violence in this font just up on the screen. And it's like, did they get that from Predator 2?
Oh yeah, this guy.
He's damp.
Everyone is.
Everyone's damp. Ridiculous costumes and outfits. Shout out to the Lethal Weapon captain. I always forget this guy's name. He's in all Richard Donner stuff.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides from Danny Glover, who's also, one of the mean, was this guy just grabbing a fistful of coke? So,
Yeah, why not? I mean, that's what you do if you're about to like be in this gunfight.
yeah, another guy. He has like a scorpion coke thing, which that's got to be great to bring to parties. However, even just like these sequences, I was like rewinding these ones, like just the silhouette and the smoke and the lighting.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, this whole sequence is really good.
this guy just falling off the
That was
thing.
one thing too. I was like, they did that. Like some guy
Yeah,
just jumped off a building. It's
yeah.
crazy.
I think this is what's cool is I think this is an actual stunt guy. Like I don't think he's
Uh-huh.
an actor. I think he just did his own. He's like, it's like yeah, we need you to be a like a gang leader in the first and yeah.
Hmm.
I like how they gave Danny Glover for no reason just a little bit of vertigo coding just for characterization. Like he's a little bit of afraid of heights.
Hmm. His costumes I loved. His partner,
Oh yeah,
Ruben Blades.
yeah. Ruben Blades is great in this. Yeah, then all this gore, and then Robert Davi with just like a Street Fighter M Bison outfit. Like I don't know what
Mhm.
type of police outfit this is. He looks so surreal. Just having him himself looks so. And speaking of costuming and like casting, he's just such a strange. I mean, no offense to Robert Davi. Well, kind of offense to him because he's a bit of a doofus, personally. But I love him as an actor. He's just a strange looking guy, and
Mhm.
but in contrast, like to these guys who just look like the Aryan Brotherhood, like they just
Mhm.
like these guys are just Hitler Youth. All these like military like special forces guys, which I thought was fascinating. I love this is actually one of my favorite. This little lady here, this little tiny lady,
Oh yeah.
she's got a great.
Cute.
Yeah, it's a great tiny lady fit. I'd be so happy if I saw her.
Uh-huh.
Again, the most ridiculous criminals. Actually, almost the most ridiculous criminals because the people. We'll skip ahead. Got to shout out Danny Glover. He is jacked in this. He looks great.
He is. He does look great.
Yeah,
I think it was unique at the time too for him to lead this movie. Like I
yeah,
think it was a little bit of a risk for them.
yeah, yeah. Having like a. I'm trying to think of like I think like Ricochet with Denzel, which is also another great ridiculous one around this time. Probably one of the some of the first like black action stars. Like the mainstream. You know, shout out Fred Williamson and um some of the other folks of like the 70s and 80s. But yeah, certainly for a Hollywood movie. Then these guys, these are some of the most ridiculous. Like
Outfits.
my buddy said they it's kind of like Afrofuturist. They kind of looked like they could be in like a Sun Ra band.
Uh-huh.
Um, which great outfits, but it's just like so over the top. Um, yeah, there was like it's called like Big Willie's Jamaican Voodoo Gang or something like that.
Yeah.
So crazy. And you got Bill Paxton. Shout out Bill Paxton. I saw you were a Twister
Ugh,
fan. I meant to. I have a
I
post
love I
flag
love
of Twister.
I love him. I actually didn't know he was in this. I forgot or I
Me
didn't
too.
and so I when he popped up I was like, "Whoa, what the heck? I love him."
Yeah. And then we got Gary Busey. This again, this beautiful lighting, all these
Mhm.
blues. I'm gonna do a whole video on this, but yeah, this is the shot we were talking about of
Oh my
starting.
gosh.
It just is massive for no reason establishing crane shot
Yeah.
with this blue yellow. I mean, this is a Russell Meddy. On my video, on my channel, I talk a lot about Russell Meddy and blue and yellow and the successive series of lights and darks and just going into something. And then this whole scene is just so phenomenally well lit. Like, I just want to just like even just like a little tiny scene like this, you just want to bathe in, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pretty upset about this.
Oh yeah, Ruben Blade. Yeah,
Yeah, because I liked him so much.
yeah. This is I should put this on my hinge prompt. Except violence
Cool.
prone. I'm not violence prone, but especially you know
Yeah,
obsessive
like
compulsive personality.
yes,
Probably
your
just that actually.
altercations.
Yeah, assault private citizen, harassment of parolee. This is kind of a serious rap sheet. Like he's a lot nicer in the movie than you would expect. More stuff. One thing I thought here, I noticed, is this where J.K. Rowling got the Deathly Hallows? I noticed this when I was clipping it. I didn't notice it when I was watching it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that either.
but it's kind of. I wonder if I can. Oh, I don't know if I can trim that, but yeah, he's got this big suit. A great big suit. This suit's so huge, so
Yes,
90s.
quite long. I remember the female cop here. Yes, she looks
Yeah,
great.
she looks. Yeah, she's great. You got the. I love this lady, the old medical. She reminded me of Minority Report when they go into the woods
Mhm.
and they meet the sort of the witch herb lady.
Yeah.
And then for no reason, him and Bill Paxton have hats here. I
Yeah,
don't
why
know
not?
why not.
It's
And then
LA.
yeah, Danny Glover has to get into this very normal car. to
Nothing
see.
is happening.
Yeah. And then this, I wish we, if we almost had, this is another thing. I think this is the same set as that they used in a couple World's Wildest Police video intro videos. I'm like almost sure. But then, yeah, they have this guy. It's so like counter to like, I'm thinking of like the portrayals of like, what's the movie like maybe 10 year like Traffic and something where they portray like the drug cartels as like these like super advanced things. It's like this guy's the head of like a $450 million a year like business of like importing cocaine into LA, and they just say he's like a voodoo guy just throwing bones on something, and so crazy. Yeah, the water. This is what you mentioned before.
Yes, I love the sequence.
Yeah. And then the head scream. The scream, and then he's still screaming as his head gets cut off.
Yeah, that's a good little transition too.
Yeah. So finally more. This is actually a very wild bunch, I thought. There's so many kids, like the kids with the with the machine gun, and he's noticing it.
Yeah, I was like, what kid has that? And my husband was like, I think I had one of those. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. And then yeah, great funeral fit. And then I think this is actually kind of sweet by the Predator. So, if I was ever to do a Predator, like script writing, if they should hire me to do a Predator movie, I would do it like that Monster Melodrama, like Midsummer or Frankenstein. I think the Predator is lonely. I think this is a friendship offering,
Yeah.
I don't think this is a taunt.
Yeah.
I was like, I think he's like, hey, I'm sorry about killing your buddy, but, here, you can have his necklace back.
I'm so upset.
Yeah. And is this half the necklace? I wonder if this is like a friendship. Like,
Yeah,
is he making a friendship bracelet with Danny Glover? Certainly the first movie, The Predator, is so lonely. I always think that's connection. Yeah, police brutality on here.
Yeah, just on the subway.
Now, these criminals, these are like pirates. What? I don't even know what, like, they were having so much fun with these outfits.
This is what people dress like in the future.
Yeah. I love it. I wish it came back. Again, more.
Oh, yeah.
The train lighting. We'll just kind of speed through this, but the lighting as it's coming through there.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah. And then in this scene, also very thematic. I mean, because it's like the Predator kills so many people because they all had guns, right? It's like everyone on the train has guns. The criminal's trying to rob the guy. He has a gun. All the bystanders have guns. The cops have guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, more blue lighting. This whole sequence.
So good.
Yeah. And then, yeah, this is, it's almost him as King Kong, right? He's on the eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's lonely. I would give the Predator a hug. I know he would kill me, but.
I guess not. If you like defeated one of them, then you could be the rest of their friend.
Yeah, the other guys are kind of pals. I was kind of hoping Danny Glover like would join him. Maybe he can go hunt someone else. Yeah. And the texture on this scene, especially, folks, if you can get like a disc of this, the haze and the particles in the lighting in here in this scene are so good, and they come through so well on the 4K. And yeah, so we'll just, I mean, this whole sequence, I loved how it stopped and started, through. It's like a dance. It
is really well constructed, and you have his vertigo coming back, which I thought was a nice little payoff. Well, he didn't like fully overcome it here, but
not fully. I like the Predator using this lady's bathroom. This is very my mom coded. Yeah, more. I mean, just the little shots of these light, coming through.
The elevator shaft.
Yeah, and then he finally gets to this beautiful ship. He sees the alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spin-off.
Yeah, I haven't seen those ones.
I actually haven't either, and I love Alien, but I haven't seen the AVP or anything.
And then to your point about the CGI, this is where, along with,
again, it's like both of them had to have one thing at the very end that didn't quite work, and I feel like that's it for them.
Yeah, and then
I do love that moment.
Yeah. Well, cool. And then the end, and then the helicopter military guys just be like, "You screwed it up," and then we have to get out. Well, cool. This was this was really fun. I wish we had like 6 more hours to talk about
I
this. I love these
know.
movies.
I do too. They're so good.
Um, so
I'm
in
glad I
terms,
got to revisit Predator too.
yeah. So in terms of like recommendations for the audience, if people like these two movies,
Mm.
um, I would say, while you're giving it a thought, I'll say the movie I mentioned before, Elite Squad, by the guy who did the new RoboCop. I haven't seen the new RoboCop, so I've heard it's not very good, so can't comment. But he did this movie called Elite Squad, that is about the Brazilian special forces clearing out the favelas and the slums in Brazil before the Pope's visit in like 1998. So it's like this. To my mind, it's like this really crazy exploration of like fascism and militarization, and like it's very, 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 very political. And I think it's like a big critique of it. And the movie that it always makes me think of is The Hurt Locker. So that'd be sort of the other, shout out Catherine Bigelow, who I really, really love. Which is also just like they're both really good action movies, just on the face of it, really thrilling, really, really good. But also, they, uh, they, they both explore, like they have sort of the deeper themes. And then if you like to sort of the most line, I mean, I'm wearing the shirt, but Total Recall, if you like both these movies, that's probably the trio. It was like, yeah. So what do you got?
I mean, if you're in a Verhoeven mood, Starship Troopers, I think would be a good one. I really like the movie Upgrade
Okay.
from, let me see, I think that was 2018. It's Logan Marshall Green plays this guy who gets upgraded. It sort of has it's more of like an action film, but it sort of has that similar like cheekiness and sense of humor
Mm.
about a lot of things. Blade Runner, I think, just because,
It's my hat today, actually.
yeah, it has some ties to this with the screenwriter wanting to like flip that
Mm.
police versus robots thing to come into what if the police are the robots fighting
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
hunting criminals? Yeah. So yeah, I think just sticking in sci-fi and finding some interesting movies is a fun way to explore.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been super fun, and yeah, we'll maybe we could do another episode. Like on, I'm trying to think of like other ones. And now I want to talk to you about Twister, so maybe we can do like a Twister
I'd love to talk
volcano.
I'd love to talk about Twister. I could talk
Yeah.
about Twister all day.
Yeah, Twister, volcano, any of the Deep Impact. I'd love to do a whole series on those the '90s disaster movies. Love those
Yeah.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Cool. Well, thanks, Joe, and yeah, have a good day, and everyone, thanks for listening.